Just a few seconds. All right, here we go. Okay. I think we're live right now. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Saturday Art Live with First Peoples Fund and the Rolling Res Arts program. My name is Brian Parker. I am the program manager for the Rolling Res Arts. For those of you unfamiliar with this program, the Rolling Res Arts is a state-of-the-art mobile art classroom, business training center, and mobile bank. The mobile unit is a 32-foot retrofitted shuttle bus that brings art to the people. We have a pretty unique program in that, we take art to the people. We work with local artists and artists from around the country that are in the First Peoples Fund family, and we take that knowledge and that training to them. So it's pretty unique in that way that we kind of collaborate with other artists and folks from different indigenous nations in this country. And our program has been working mainly in the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation communities and neighboring communities as well here in South Dakota since 2016. And so it's just been a really great program. Personally, being in this position, I've got to meet a lot of great artists all over and just continue to learn and just be inspired from everyone that we come in partnership with and become, friends with. So tonight we have a very special guest. We have two very special guests, but the first guest will be the demonstrating artist for this evening. And I will turn it over to her and let her introduce herself. So take it away, Jada.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. I am Jaida Grey Eagle. I am Oglala Lakota. I am originally from the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. However, I've been living in Minnesota since I was about 5. So this is where I am. I am currently in my home in St. Paul. I have a studio in North Minneapolis, and I live and I work here and I love it. So my art practices are, so I'm a photographer primarily. I'm a photojournalist. I think those two are two very different things. I'm a beadwork artist, and I'm a writer, and I'm a filmmaker. I've only just recently got comfortable calling myself a writer, so it's kind of a new thing. Currently, I am a full-time photojournalist with through the Report for America program. It's a fellowship program that places emerging journalists in underreported news areas. So I am working at the Sahen Journal here in Minneapolis and St. Paul, where we cover the immigrant and refugee stories here because they're largely underreported. And I have been doing that since June. And I've really, really enjoyed my time, and I'll show some of my work from that later. And I also create my own photographic essays through my own art practice and studio practice, which I'll also get into later. And I'm a beadwork artist, and I'm a part of the Be Yellowtail Collective, which is Bethany Yellowtail's collective of Indigenous artists. And she is based out of Los Angeles. I'm a filmmaker, and I just recently produced my first feature-length documentary. It's titled Sisters Rising, and it platforms 6 Indigenous women that are fighting to restore personal and tribal sovereignty in an effort to combat the violence against Indigenous women. And then I very recently, back in December, graduated from the Institute of American Indian Arts with my bachelor's in fine arts, focusing in photography. Through my time at the Institute, I held multiple fellowships through the Native American Journalism Association, where I was able to practice and publish my journalism through mentorship and collaboration. And I'm also a former First Peoples Fund Fellow, yay, and currently a curatorial fellow at the Minneapolis Institute of Arts. So I'm gonna share my screen so I can get into what I'm gonna be talking about. Okay, is that showing up, Brian? Is that good? Okay. So I'm going to be talking about some of the research that I've been working on for a potential exhibition that's focused on Indigenous photographers through time and place as a part of my work at the Minneapolis Institute of Arts. And I'm going to be going over my own journey through photography. So I guess this is kind of like the demo, like I'm giving more of sort of a background to my practice and how I arrived at where I currently am and resources I've used. And then ultimately I'll end with opportunities for other photographers to pursue. Okay, so currently I am working as a curatorial fellow at the Minneapolis Institute of Arts, and I am looking to develop a potential exhibition alongside Jill Elberg Yohe, who is an incredible mentor, and she's the curator of the Art of Americas at Minneapolis Institute of Arts, and she worked alongside Terry Greaves to develop Hearts of Our People. And I'm working alongside Casey Riley, who is head of the New Media and Photographic Department at MIA. And so this potential exhibition that we've been working on, they gave me 98% like approval to talk about this. So I'm gonna 98% talk about it. So it's focused on Indigenous photographers through time and place. And this was like really inspired by my own research during my time at IAI and just finding like these incredible Indigenous scholars' work, scholars and photographers' work, like such as people like Julia Sinigini, Jolene Rickard, Rian Chartrand, Larry McNeil, Will Wilson, Tom Jones, like all of these really incredible photographers that have been practicing, and all of these scholars who've been researching way before like I've even showed up. So they've been focusing, on our history as Indigenous people and our history with photography. And the curators that I'm working with, recognize that there is a very small amount of Indigenous photographers that the MIA actually holds within their collections. So this is like a want to write that. And I'm really interested in this idea of Indigenous people having been practicing photography for such a long time, and how Indigenous folks have been creating their images compared to, say, like settler photographers of the time. And I think that a lot of photography taken of our people in the past, and even like up into the fairly present, has been done under this really unbalanced dichotomy of white supremacy. And it has taken our image and romanticized it, fetishized it, and othered us into this like impossible standard of human. So some of the photographers whose work I have been studying and falling in love with have been this photo right here is of, it's a self-portrait of one of my favorite photographers, is Benjamin Alfred Haldane. And he is a Tsimshian photographer who opened up his first studio at the age of 25 in 1899. And I wanted to show the history of photography and how quickly Indigenous people have adapted and have been practicing photography and documenting their own communities. Because I think like that's just kind of an unseen part of history. And so Benjamin Haldane is considered to be, one of the first Indigenous people to become a professional photographer in North America. And his archives and work are regarded as holding a large contribution to the First Nation and Alaskan Native histories and the history of Indigenous photography in North America. And what I love so much about him is that his work provides a counter narrative to the dominant history of his community, which was largely provided by missionaries. And I'm gonna say her name wrong, but I'm gonna try. Miguel D'Angeli is a Tsimshian scholar who's done a lot of work to uncover Benjamin Haldane's work, and she's used Indigenous research methodologies to provide insight into his work through song and dance and ceremony. And I find that through creating his work through this time, he was providing this Indigenous insight into what was happening within his community. And he was taking back that power of colonialism and providing the future of his community with the ability to see through time and place that the dominant history that was being documented and told wasn't exactly what was going on. And that's the power of photography to me. It's this ability to document through separate voices shows this power of our abilities as like practitioners and as documentarians. And this is some of the other photography. Oh yeah, I put up the history of the photography to show how soon it was invented, you know, and how accessible and how fast Indigenous people were practicing on a professional level. But then this is another one of my favorite photographers that I've been researching. And this is Jenny Ross Cobb, and she's Cherokee. And she was practicing at the turn of the century. And she is regarded as being the first Indigenous woman photographer. And she was documenting her community. And so she had left her community and then she had come back. And so armed with the photographs from the turn of the century and her memories, she assisted in the restoration of, to create a more accurate version of some of like the buildings within her community. And so I think people tend to think of photographs as this practice that is kind of like, you know, like wispy, or it doesn't really hold weight, but I think that that's so wrong. And if, I think that photography has been helping our communities to maintain their true histories throughout this whole time since it's been here. And Jenny's work has been shown as recently as 2019. And it was actually, she was in the Hearts of Our People exhibition at the MIA. And another photographer is Richard Thrussell. He's a Cree photographer, or he's part Cree. And he's best known for his photographs of the Crow Reservation. And he was adopted into that tribe in 1906, and he remained on the reservation until about 1911. And during that time, he took over 1,000 photographs of the Crow Indian life. And although similar to like practicing with the other settler photographers that were practicing around the time, like he learned under, I always forget his name, Edward S. Curtis. There's like an intimacy and familiarity to Thrussell's work that I think is important to showcase, because I think like through, you know, settler photography, they never showed us smiling. Like to have an image of a child smiling is quite different for the time. And so some of the others that I've been studying is Horace Pula, Dorothy Chocolate, and Owen, I think it's Sewemtwe. I'm so bad at this. But these are some of my other photographers, and you know, some images that like I don't think have been largely seen through the mainstream society, and that I think deserve a space. Like I honestly want these names to be known when people talk about the history of photography, especially here in America. And so that's just some of the work that I've done that informs my own work and informs my own practice. But not only that, like I think informs the practice of just Indigenous photography in general. So now I can start talking about my own practice. And so I've been photographing since I was a kid. I got my first camera whenever I was 17, but prior to that, I would steal my parents' film cameras and like shoot entire canisters in one day. And they would get so mad at me and they're like, that was supposed to last us. Like, what are you doing? But I mean, they supported it and they kept buying me films. I feel like it's kind of their fault that they kept buying me film anyway. But they got me a digital camera finally at the age of 17, and it was this tiny little Canon camera. It was probably like as big as a deck of cards, and I got really obsessed with it. I lived in Rushville, Nebraska, which is probably maybe regarded as the most boring town in America. This is where I got my start in photography. And I would chase the sunsets every day. I would wake up early. I would go photograph the sunrises. I would photograph the town dog. Like there's a town dog there. And you know, I got really obsessed. And so the first art show that I ended up submitting to was the Red Cloud Indian Art Show. And that was my first show at the age of 18. So it was like a year later that I finally ended up going and submitting my work. But later on through life, you know, whenever I went to college and everything, I started getting really into photographing Indigenous resistance, particularly towards pipelines. My school, we did this fundraiser where we raised funds to bring a group of us to Standing Rock. And we took with us, you know, art supplies, like watermelons, green chilies, like, and we all went up there together and we taught a collective art class. And we spent a week up there. And during that week, I would walk around and, you know, I would talk with people and visit with them and interview them. And I did a lot of photography during that time. And people would ask me, like, who are you working for? Who's hired you to do this? And honestly, nobody. Like, I just did this because why not? This was like a moment in history that I think needed to be shown. So I was just doing this on my own. And then I eventually ended up publishing a few articles. And this picture on the right here, the Can't Drink Oil, that's actually the cover of the book by Nick Estes and Jaskiran Dillon, the Standing with Standing Rock. And I mean, I didn't go there and my intentions weren't to publish. My intentions weren't to make any money off of my photographs. I honestly just wanted to document. And I've also photographed the Line 3 resistance in Minnesota. I've kind of fallen out of that lately because I've been a little busy, but I mean, whenever it was first beginning, I was there and I was photographing that as well. And then some of the commercial work that I've done has largely been for my friends' businesses. So these two on the right here are my amazing friends who I actually met through the First Peoples Fund Fellowship. Jordan and Maddie Craig and their business, Shy Natives. And then this top left one here, the girl with the hoops, that's for Indigenous Goddess Gang, which they are no longer on social media. They're on a website now. So if you look up Indigenous Goddess Gang, the latest fashion shoot is something that Jordan, our friend Diego Medina, who's actually his picture's right here, and I all worked on together. And then this lower one is for my friend's company called Maida Goods, and she collaborates with artists in the area of New Mexico, Indigenous artists in New Mexico. And so I think something that I would tell, you know, like an emerging photographer is like, really collaborate and support your friends on what they're doing, because all of the images right here are all of my friends. You know, we work in collaboration together, and that's really like a good place to go in terms of photography, is like supporting your friends. Like, hey, does your friend make beaded earrings? Like, set up a shoot with your friends, because why not? I mean, look at this work. And actually through my collaborations with Shy Natives, one of the photographs that I did was actually published in Vogue. So I mean, you never, and I mean, again, that wasn't our intention, you know, like we didn't set out and like, oh, this is gonna get published in Vogue someday. Like, no, I don't think like that, but it happened, you know, because you never know what's gonna come with working with your friends. And then this is some of my photojournalism work. So all of these have been shot within the past few weeks. It's been, so I live in the Twin Cities, and if you have been watching the news even for a second, you know how intense it has been here. There's a lot going on and I've been pretty busy. So like I said, you know, I'm working as a photojournalist, and at the publication that I work at, I am the only photojournalist on staff. So my weeks can go, you know, range from photographing protests on the main highways where I have to jump fences to, you know, setting up portrait sessions at my studio, to sitting on Joan Gable, the University of Minnesota's president's lawn with students as they demand that police officers are taken out of the University of Minnesota. I visited with immigrant business owners on Lake Street. Lake Street was one of the most hit areas with fires and looting within the Twin Cities. And so a few weeks ago, I went to go visit with some of the immigrant business owners on like, you know, what happened, like what did they do during that time, and how they're handling things. And so I've always wanted to be a photojournalist. I think since I started out, it's been one of my biggest dreams to do photojournalism. And my mom was always so worried about me. She was always like, you just chase these protests and everything. And finally she started calling me an adrenaline junkie. And I was like, I think I am. Like, I think that's what I am. Like, totally. I'm not even gonna deny that. So, but I mean, and that is to say that it does get a little scary sometimes. I mean, like, what's 2020 without a little tear gas, I guess. I mean, it just kind of solidifies what kind of a year this has been. But yeah, so this is some of more of my my intense work, I guess, is what you would say. And yeah, this is my graduating project for the Institute of American Indian Arts. And this was inspired by my mother. She was a drug and alcohol counselor on our reservation back in Pine Ridge, and she got to visit with people and she got to hear their stories. And she said that, you know, our people have like these just really incredible stories of strength and resilience, but she had never seen that portrayed in media. And so she wanted, her ultimate goal was she wanted to, you know, either make a book or just like something that solidifies that our women just come from like these really strong families and like in places of resilience that they just exuded, you know, throughout our entire nation. And so what I did was, for my graduating exhibition, you know, I traveled through South Dakota, through Minnesota, through North Dakota, and I asked these women, like, would you sit and interview with me? And it's women of the Oceti Shakoi, so it's Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota nations. And I asked, you know, will you sit with me? Will you visit with me? And will you tell me how you want your portrait to be taken? And I said, and like people were like, what does that mean? Like, what do you mean? And I said, you know, I want you to bring items that are important to you, or we can talk about lighting, or we can just talk about like how you want to be represented, because I feel like in the past, you know, our most popular images of who we are as a people are kind of white men coming in and telling us what we should look like as Native people. And so I wanted to reverse that practice and see what would come about. And so I had no idea what this was going to ultimately end up like. Like, I didn't have any preconceived notions of how people were going to show up, what they were going to show up with, and how they were going to ask to represent themselves. The only thing that I had asked them was to shut their eyes. And the reason why I asked that was because I wanted to honor their stories. And it was this like emulation that I wanted to do in regards to listening and watching my grandmothers visit with each other, like my elders. And whenever they would all shut their eyes. And so I knew these women were going to be telling their stories, and like their very intimate stories. So I asked them to shut their eyes as like a form of, you know, emulating my grandmothers. But other than that, you know, like people would bring their moms, they would bring their earrings, you know, shawls, they brought portraits, they brought everything. And this series, you can look it up and you can see it on my website. And then I have slices of their interviews up, and then you can also listen to the audio. So you can hear them telling their own stories through their own voices. Okay, so these are some things that I wanted to talk about, which I guess kind of goes into more of like the demo of this whole thing. I wanted to talk about the why instead of the how, particularly because I think the how nowadays, like lenses, bodies, camera bodies, you know, light, the technical, you can find very easily. Like, you guys have access to YouTube. I'm not old, I didn't. Like, I did not have YouTube whenever I was first figuring out photography. So the ways that I actually had to figure out photography was one of the most things that helped me the most was looking at other people's photographs. And there are certain photography websites where you can look at people's photographs and you can bring up their metadata or their XF. EXIF, I've never known how to say that. I probably won't ever learn how to say that, but you can bring that data up and you can see what lenses people shoot with. You can see their settings on their camera. You can see if they have any accessories attached to their camera. So you can see if somebody's shooting with a strobe or a flash, or you can see, I think the most important thing for me to learn about in that way was learning about lenses, because I had no clue anything about lenses, but doing that and looking at others' photos is where I learned the most about lenses. And so what I wanted to talk about today was the why, because these are things that nobody's ever talked about with me prior to going to college, prior to getting a job working professionally in photography, or like prior to anything. So whenever I was first starting out, like nobody talked to me about like any of this. So impact, communication, and why a picture instead of words. This is like a question that I ask myself whenever I go and I cover a story. Like, why am I here? Why am I taking a picture? And what in this moment can I create to show what's going on that can speak better than words can? And it's mostly because it's an intense situation, right? Like, I mean, you wouldn't know that there were 100 people protesting on 94. Like, you wouldn't have that visual unless you had a photograph, because words can only say so much. Words aren't going to necessarily show you that visual of like just people in general and people's spirits and everything. So this is like a question that I always ask myself every time I show up to a situation. Like, why am I here? What do I need to do in this situation? Another thing is building series and like your cohesion within your photographs. So I didn't know anything about building series prior to going to college. If you can see, I actually only have one series that I'm like very proud of to put up on my website. So I'm still learning that, I'm still building that, I'm still practicing that. But in your series building, you know, for whatever you decide to do, like anything, there needs to be certain cohesion so that they live together. And they don't even need, like, it's like building this family, you know, like they don't even need to be like close family. They can be cousins, but as long as they look like they belong together, like that's a series, right? And so I think another way that I built series within or cohesion within my WIA series was the black backdrop and the eyes closing. And so that's how I made that family and how they live together. Maintaining relationships and working in reciprocity is also something I've been working on, because you don't want to burn people out from working with you. You don't want to be like, hey, I'm going to take your portrait. Hey, I'm going to take your portrait again. Hey, let's do that again. Like, you need to have some sort of reciprocal relationship going on there that like can be in the form of, you know, giving them the photographs you took of them. I tend to make people earrings when I photograph them. And this is like more, I think, of an Indigenous practice. This is actually really frowned upon in the modern journalism world. We're not supposed to gift people things for their photographs, but in my own personal work, I definitely try to work in reciprocity. And that's just like, you know, being a good relative and like working in community. And then creating a portrait instead of shooting a picture. I put that up there because of, I think that the language that we tend to use in terms of photography can be pretty violent in nature. I mean, I read this essay where somebody never mentioned the word photograph, but they used all of the words people use in photography, and it sounded like they were trying to kidnap somebody. So I mean, I think we just need to watch our language when we're talking, because I mean, like, I'm going to go shoot this person, you know, oh, I'm going to go capture this. Like, it's like so much taking, and like it's really problematic. So I tend to try to watch my language. I'm not the best at it. I'm trying to check myself more. But in creating a portrait, you know, you talk with people, you have that communication, you work together, you're in collaboration, it's reciprocal, instead of just going up and like shooting them with your camera. It's a very different relationship. And I think it starts whenever you check yourself in your language and practice that, it creates a different dynamic in your work. I've noticed that my work has changed since I've checked myself quite a bit on that, and it's just something that I wanted to highlight. Types of cameras and accessibility, something that people tell me all the time is, oh, you have a really nice camera. Please stop saying that. Don't ever tell a photographer they have a nice camera. Yes, photographers do have nice cameras, but that doesn't mean everything. You don't tell painters they have nice paintbrushes. You don't tell beaders, oh wow, you have really nice beads and thread and needles. Like, you don't say that. People have practiced for years and studied for a long time to take the pictures that they do. It's not all in the camera. I've seen amazing photographic essays. I've seen really amazing work taken, you know, with iPhones. I mean, taken with phones, taken with disposable cameras. I think that Shy Natives is a really good indication of that, because most of their pictures, if you go to their Instagram, most of their pictures they take on disposable 35mm cameras, and their photography is good. So I mean, it's about wanting this to create. It's not about not having access. I bought one of like my most favorite film cameras that I meant to run to my studio so I could hold it up in this moment, but I never chance to run to my studio today. But I bought one of my most favorite film cameras for $50 in a pawn shop in Rapid City. Like the cameras and everything is there. You just have to go find it, and you have to have that passion to want to create. I've photographed with almost every camera that I have listed here. I love Polaroid and instant photography. I love disposable cameras. I love everything. I mean, like, you can really create with anything and everything. You don't even need a camera, honestly. If you look up cyanotype photography, you can still take photographic images without a camera. Things to think about investing in that I think are really important and are worth the money is storage. You need a really, really good hard drive, and you need to archive your work. This is me talking to myself 10 years ago. I don't have access to most of my early photography because I didn't invest in storage. I just left it all on my old computers that are long dead and wherever they are. So, I mean, and I wish that I did, because I mean, some of those photos that I took way back in the day are still, I think are still okay. Like, they're still pretty good images. Software is also another thing. So I primarily work with Adobe software. I know that there are some free softwares comparatively, like GIMP compared to Photoshop. So that is out there, but I mean, I think making the investment towards really good software really changes your images. And lenses are really, really important to good photos. You can have a totally crap body. You can have like a body that was, I still shoot professionally with a body that is, I think, maybe 12 years old. So back like whenever, I think it was made whenever I was a teenager. So, but I still shoot with it, and I still shoot with it professionally, but I have a really good lens on it, and it's amazing. It's a workhorse camera body. So those are three things that I think are so important to invest in. above anything else in photography. And then some opportunities for sort of emerging photographers. One that I want to give like a really huge shout out, because I wouldn't have graduated without them, is the Native American Journalists Association Fellowship. I was their fellow for not 2 years in a row because I took a year off in between, but I was their fellow for like 2017 and then 2019. And they have just provided me with immense mentorship and opportunities, and they gave me a scholarship that allowed me to go back and graduate. So they are amazing at finding emerging photojournalists opportunities, as well as mentorship. My mentors from Naja have helped me immensely in everything that I do. First Peoples Fund Fellowship is also incredible, and they're not paying me to even say that. I just put that. They didn't even know I had that in there. So some other places, you know, more so for artists in residences, so the Indian Arts Research Center in Santa Fe. I haven't done their residency, but I've had several friends do their residency, and I've heard nothing but amazing things about that residency. I just finished my artist in residency at Crazy Horse Memorial. I didn't actually get to go out to South Dakota, which was my intention, but then, you know, 2020 happened, so COVID ruined everything. And I think I also sent out some opportunities like books, like YouTube tutorials and everything that are kind of more rooted in like this kind of like theory and everything, to you guys to send out as well. Brian, I don't know if you guys will be able to send that out or not, but that is what I got, and I ended on time. Look at me.
That is awesome. Let me go through the Facebook page to see if we have any questions.
Oh, Joseph's here. Joseph! Hi.
So let's see. So one of the questions is, this person says, Gus says, my interest is photography, only I'm not interested in going to school for this. Any suggestions?
Don't. You don't have to. I honestly, okay, so I wish that I didn't study photography at school. I wish I studied something that I didn't know how to do. I wish that I went for, say, like filmmaking or journalism or something else. So I get that. Like, I don't think you have to go to school for photography. I don't think it's a necessary thing. I'm gonna say that, you know, I really enjoyed the photography program at IAIA, but if they don't want to go to school for photography, it's totally not necessary.
You mentioned shooting with a camera body that's a little outdated. It's okay to say it like that.
Yeah.
Can you share like what type of camera that is?
Yeah, it's a Mark II, Canon EOS Mark II. Yeah, that's what I shoot with. I also have a Mark IV, but I only got that like whenever I got my first People's Fund Fellowship. But prior to that, I've been shooting with a Mark II for like the past 8 years. So.
Excellent. Well, let's see here. Gus said thank you. There's no other questions right now, but I just wanted to say I really appreciate your presentation, and I really liked how you said, you know, it's about your wantingness or wanting to create, and it's not always about access to certain equipment. And I totally feel that. Like, you know, I'm kind of always telling people, you know, you just gotta go out there and make it, you know, make something happen with whatever you have laying around. It's about being a good storyteller, not just relying on, you know, the brand new, most fancy, you know, piece of equipment there is. So I really appreciate that you said that.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess for anybody listening, like feel free to reach out to me because I'm a total open book. I don't believe in gatekeeping, and I think that most of this stuff should like just be available for people to know. So I will always share everything that I know. So all right. You're muted, Brian. You're muted.
Okay, I think I got it.
All right, good luck, Joseph.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Jada.
Yeah. Have a good night.
You too. All right, folks, we have our next guest, our musical guest. This is a very special treat as well. But I just want to say thank you to Jaida Grey Eagle for that presentation and demonstration and all those great tips. And just excited that for her time and to be able to share that. So now I'm going to turn it over to our musical guest for the evening, and I will let him introduce himself. So Joseph, take it away.
Hi, everybody. My name is Joseph Runningrane. I'm a singer-songwriter, drummer, archivist from Browning, Montana. I'm Blackfeet Indian. I've been touring, playing out, recording as a musician in various different genres, styles, and instruments over the past 12 years. Lived in Browning for most of my life, and I just moved to Missoula. I'm now a Missoulian here in Montana. I'm a 2019 Artist and Business Leadership recipient, fellow, from First Peoples Fund. So that was last year, and that was pretty great. Got to meet some really awesome people through that, and through the funding that I received from that, I released my first solo record called Dog Winter, which came out September last year. And currently, I'm working on an interview and performance archive of Native performers. Still kind of working on the pitch right now, and then also working on the next record as well. I tend to write a lot about how it was growing up in Browning and how weird it was experiencing things off of the reservation, and then just more universal concepts. The lead-in from the record that I released last year was it's called Imi Da, and is in reference to this interview that a friend of mine had conducted for a documentary that he did about res dogs in Browning in particular, and where a lot of people will call it a stray dog problem. We prefer to see it as a thriving and diverse ecosystem of res dogs. And the story goes is that all these street people who are around Browning are always followed around by these dogs, and when their buddies pass on, it's these dogs that they come back as to be with their old drinking buddies. And so I wrote a song about it, and it goes like this. There is a dog that follows me around town, keeps me company when friends and work can't be found. Please sure don't judge me for the shape that I'm in. Don't wear a collar and he smells like the wind. He defends me from weak. No savior's done, sleeping the day and at night we run. The snow falls quiet on Browning tonight. The streetlights send up red hot pillars of light. They give off no warmth like the night that you died. Your only sin was just sleeping outside, and I hope that you'll walk good health and shoes. I hope death is to winning, to living was to lose.
no name. He eats what he finds. Drink from the well and the mid-shelf sometimes. He'll sit in front of me like he's waiting to play. His ears will twitch slightly if I mention your name, and I know it's just thinking. It's probably not true, but when I talk to him, it's like talking to you.
Yeah, I'll never, ever, ever get used to just the vacuous silence after playing a live stream thing. So yeah, this next song, it's also on the last record. Second track off of that one's called Bowling Ball. And it's about my dad, who was kind of a troublemaker when he was younger, and then he had my older sisters, and then I came along and he gave up and sacrificed a lot. And then I came of age, and I was pretty ungrateful for it, despite all the sacrifices he had made. So this is both a song for him and an apology to him. It's called Bowling Ball. It goes like this.
Came into town, went to the one place he could go. To the outskirts of town, to the tribal casino. Dollar for dollars a night on the town, breaking even, leveling out. The one place where his name made no sound. Oh, the family that he left, still living in old Loren. Obligations to his father, then back out again. Home for a day or two, maybe more. Takes out the trash, a couple runs to the grocery store. 25 years old, the horizon is clear. Hopefully it takes him away from here, since every face he sees looks like a funhouse mirror. All drunken and disheveled, looking for a hole in government work. Tell you feels a little different here, but it don't take away the hurt. I'm you, you are me. Choices I made just to keep you and your sisters free. You may stumble, Lord, you may crawl, and this hole in the world will roll like a bowling ball. You got love, you got your friends, you got the start, you got the means to the end. You'll be back again, but I don't know how, and I sure don't know when. Green grass in the summer, cross on the field in the fall. Spring coming from the winter now, don't mean that much at all.
Screwed that one up just a little bit. Haven't played that one for a minute. How am I doing on time? Good? All right, just making sure. So this is lightly informed by, I'm actually related, pretty closely related to Ashley Loring Heavy Runner, who's been missing since 2017. And her, gosh, forget the exact relation, but one of her relations passed away, who I was also really closely related to, passed away earlier this year. And I try not to mire in the despair of the day-to-day situations of any sort of like low-income reservation community, but you know, sometimes you just gotta do what you're gonna do and write about what you're gonna write about. And you know, you typically look past it day to day when you come from a place like that, but there's some days where you have to go to someone's funeral and you see you know, skull cans and dog crap and all sorts of stuff laying all over a perfectly good cemetery. So it's like we can't even have the final resting place be a peaceful, quiet, and clean place. Rather than go and write some topical folk song about it, I tend to turn inwards and write about the feeling of it all. And so this song doesn't have a very strictly outlined point, but maybe you'll pick up on it. Maybe I'll pick up on it too. It goes like this.
The sunrise is just in time to break the stillness of the night, while I'm keeping my shakes from the sleeping beauty by my side. All in all, I can't complain about the choices that I've made, except these choices left these voices, they've been picking at my brain. When I find that peace of mind or job that actually pays, I'll be waiting for the kids on time on every holiday. But nobody can miss nothing if that nothing never was. Your sister hasn't called me, but I'll text you when she does. Take me away to a dirty grave where old skull cans and forgotten flowers lay. Sing me up high, put me in the ground, leave me on the outskirts of town. My car, well, it ain't working. It was working yesterday. I'll get you for the grass and gas next week when I get paid. I count the days and dimes like bits of wine, slowly drying up, drunk and out of time, singing along to come and get your love. When the sun goes down, I circle round the shadows on the wall, bob and weave the jabs and swings like there's nothing there at all. And nobody can miss nothing if that nothing never was. I take a swing and leave the outline, the nothing in my blood. And on that day, clean up my grave, take those flowers and throw them away. And your goodbyes, but shed no tears, make it so that I was never here.
Cool, just got a 5-minute warning. I'll play for you one more, kind of lighten the mood just a little bit. It's something that I've been struggling to do my entire career, is trying to write a happy song that isn't happy for the sake of being happy, but you know, can still be joyous, I suppose. I got a 3-year-old niece, and I was supposed to go play a gig in Hot Springs, and I was late. I was running late. I need to get out of town, and I just can't tell any of my nieces or my nephews no. So I just told her, "You're really slowing me down, kid," and that's what stuck as a title. And I wrote this next one kind of around that idea. It goes like this. It's the happiest song I've managed to write so far.
walk real fast, fast as I can. Well, I always know where I gotta go, itinerary in hand, oh baby, when we go on a Sunday stroll. I never know just where I wanna go, 'cause only you can slow me down like you do. I talk real fast, thoughts can't keep up. Fast backwards, discombobulated. Just shut up, oh baby, when I'm feeling down. Oh, you come around, I'm the smoothest talking man in town. 'Cause only you can slow me down like you do. I drive real fast, fast as the wind. Oh, I hit these gigs and split so I can get back home again. Oh, honey, money comes and goes, and so it goes. The flow of time, don't change it on. 'Cause only you can slow me down like you do. I eat real fast, oh, I shovel it on down. 'Cause it always tastes much better when I know it's not around. When you got something in the pot, you know I savor every flavor that I've got. 'Cause only you can slow me down like you do. 'Cause only you can slow me down like you do. My name is Joseph Vernon Crane, First Peoples Fund, Rolling Res Arts. It's great. Thanks for having me. It was great doing this. I'm always happy to support and do whatever you guys need me to do. So thanks again for having me.
Thank you so much, Joseph. That was awesome. And I really appreciate you sharing sharing your talents and your stories. And I just hope that others that are watching this tonight are, you know, in the comfort of great care with their families. And I got to tell you, as you're playing, I'm looking out. I'm actually on the Rolling Res bus right now, and I'm looking out and I see the Black Hills to my left and the Badlands to my right. And man, it was just really sweet hearing that with those views. So thank you so much, and we really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, everyone, thank you for tuning in tonight for the Rolling Res Arts Saturday Art Live event. Please check back with First Peoples Fund's Facebook page for upcoming art events, Native Artist Professional Development Training, and other good to know resources. Also, please follow First Peoples Fund on Instagram and Twitter. It's just First Peoples Fund, the #1 First Peoples Fund. You can also visit us at www.firstpeoplesfund.org to find out more about our fellowship programs, Dances Word programs, and other good to know resources and upcoming events. And I just want to thank you all again for tuning in, and I wish you all a great weekend, and please take care of one another out there and be safe. Thank you. Good night.